I've said it before, and I'll say it again. What a tough year 2020 was for cinema. A year that promised so many hits and exciting projects from all over Asia ended up with a calendar full of delayed releases. So then anything that was released, we jumped on and tried to cherish. But like anything, there was disappointments. And this is my personal list of 15 Asian movies that really disappointed me this year. It might have been for one of various or multiple reasons, or my expectations were too high. There may be some movies here that you really enjoyed. It's worth mentioning up front, I'm not saying every movie on this list is bad, just that it disappointed me. In alphabetical order, let's take a look. Not a bad movie, just a disappointment. That's something you'll hear me say a lot in this video, and #alive is a great example of this statement. With an awesome idea that should have made a great movie, what we ended up with was a main character that was unlikable and a supporting character that made no sense. And then mix that with some illogical scenarios and a strange ending, and you end up with this film. Maybe it's the zombie fatigue kicking in, as this is not the only zombie movie on this video, or maybe it's a case of the trailer being far better than the end result. The main problem is Oh Jun-woo, a late 20-something with no life skills or personality. His survival was give or take to me. He was so uninteresting that I really didn't care. But when he meets Kim Yoo-bin, the cute girl living in the apartment opposite, is when things really turn south. How did it take so long for them to meet? And why is she so much better and smarter than him at everything? And why did they come up with that harebrained scheme at the end? Being a Korean film, the production behind it is usual top-notch presentation we'd expect. So the problem here lies completely with the story and the characters. If you ever plan on remaking a classic Sammo Hung movie, you have to make sure it's at least as good as his original. And if you throw in superstar Donnie Yen into the lead role, then you'd expect it to not only be good, but better. But that's not the case with Enter the Fat Dragon. In a rare misfire from Donnie Yen, he stars as Fallon Ju, the disgraced police officer who piles on the kilos after suffering setback after setback, who is then given a chance at redemption by escorting a wanted Yakuza criminal back to Japan. But things go wrong in Japan, and Jul needs to save the day. The original Sammo Hung movie will always be considered a kung fu classic. A parody homage of Bruce Lee movies, it told the tale of a bumbling but likeable country boy who comes to the city to work for a relative and gets caught up with the wrong people. But by changing the plot of the movie, the charm of the character is lost. Not even famed action director Kenji Tanigaki and Hong Kong legend Jin Wong could save this disaster of a film, which had a stalled release right at the beginning of the pandemic lockdowns and never recovered. Another not bad movie, just a disappointment, is this Japanese drama based on the true story of the Fukushima nuclear plant disaster in 2011. Starring two massive Japanese actors in Ken Watanabe and Koichi Sato, and based on an exciting true story that gripped the world for days. It's a real head-scratcher how this movie ended up the way it did. Was it the fact that the story keeps switching between the power plant and the bureaucrats? Was it the fact that the politicians in this movie were so frustrating? Or was it the frequently yelling out of lines and apologising by the cast? Perhaps it was all three. All I know is that an event like Fukushima deserved a better movie adaptation than this. This hulk of utter crap is possibly the equal worst movie of the year. Whoever thought this was a great idea needs to never make movies again. Written, directed and starring Deo Wong, a man who usually makes very funny films, comes this cringeworthy disaster of a comedy kung fu movie. Ma Fei Lung is beaten up by boxer Chan Sang and ridiculed on the internet after the incident, resulting in an almost complete collapse of his life and business. In order to gain back some respect, he challenges her to a duel in the ring, but you just know how this is going to turn out. The humour is forced, and the slapstick is reminiscent of 80s Hong Kong comedy movies when things like that were actually funny. To top it off is the uninspired performance from Annie Liu, who's just there for the paycheck, and you've got a movie that you should avoid as much as possible. If you follow my channels, you'll know that I think 2020 has been an utter disaster for Asian horror movies. Countries whose output are usually top-notch produce some of the worst stinkers I've seen, and I watch a lot of Chinese horror movies, which are all bad. Two movies that I was really excited about, Korean films Hotel Lake and The Closet, disappointed to no end. The worst part about both of these movies is that they start well, and in Hotel Lake's case, a bulk of the movie is really decent, but when they both reached their endings, they both left me unsatisfied, like really bad fried chicken, and it's hard to stuff up fried chicken. Indonesia, which usually makes insane horror movies, had a complete write-off of a year, but the one that sticks the most in my mind is Yanin, or Fetus. Poor special effects, bad acting, and a stupid storyline combined to create a movie that ended up making no sense and relied too much on jump scares rather than real horror themes. Over to Japan, and what were they thinking with Howling Village? A decent story and introduction sequence ruined by being a movie about dog people. A twist that came out of nowhere and wasn't explained that well. And Taiwan didn't escape unscathed from a stack of horror disasters this year. First is the shockingly laughable The Bridge Curse, a movie that should have been so good considering the producers created the other Curse movies and the tag-along series, but was full of so many typical teen horror tropes, it ended up being a comedy and not a horror. And a movie that should have been a comedy, the zombie film Get the Hell Out, ended up being more of an annoyance than anything else. A style that works well for music videos, but not for a full-length movie. The worst movie on this list, and it had to be Chinese, Ip Man Crisis Time, has nothing to do with the Ip Man series other than a shoehorn story that pretends it links to the Great Grandmaster. Normally, I wouldn't consider web movies on this list, but considering the dearth of movies this year and the fact that a bulk of them ended up being on streaming, and the name Ip Man in the title, I thought it was fair game. Not that this disaster would have ever been released in the cinema. It looks cheap, it feels cheap, and it is cheap. Lackluster action scenes with too much wire work, poor special effects, and a completely illogical story that makes this a chore to watch. Even at 75 minutes, it's 74 minutes too long. I know you probably want to watch it because it has Ip Man in the title, but take my advice and leave this movie the hell alone. Falling into the disappointment category is this big budget Korean zombie thriller. Hopes were very high for this one. When the marketing campaign first came out with the original title of Train to Busan 2, Peninsula, but then the Train to Busan bit was quickly removed. And with good reason, this movie isn't a patch on that. A chore of a storyline involving a band of survivors in the remains of zombie-infested Korea, and a crew of rogues tasked with recovering a truck of money or gold or something not really important. The zombies are not interesting, the cast are not interesting, and the scenario makes no sense. Korea has been locked off to the rest of the world for years? I don't think so, movie. Released in the middle of the year, where some countries still had cinemas open and others didn't, this didn't quite get the full audience it expected, and that's probably a good thing. Only a small disappointment, but a disappointment nonetheless, is this Korean action thriller with some sci-fi elements. And that's what's disappointed me about this film. It started off in this dystopian future Korea with an interesting premise and lots of promise, and then went nowhere with it. If the filmmaker wasn't going to take advantage of the world they created, why did they do it in the first place? The movie itself isn't too bad. Two small-time ex-criminals welcome their friend back into society from prison, and they plan one more job, to rob an illegal black market casino and then escape from Korea. Again, not a bad film, but the premise just needed more polish, and the concept needed to be integrated better into the film. Remember when Jackie Chan movies used to be an exciting event to look forward to? Unfortunately, those days are long gone. And after the release of Vanguard, that's never been truer. Delayed by 8 months due to COVID, eventually getting released on September 30, was wasted on the filmmaker who should have taken that opportunity to review the film and improve the elements that many reviewers, myself included, have highlighted as flaws. Poor CGI, stereotypical enemies, and forced politics are mixed into set pieces that aren't exciting and a story that is virtually non-existent. While there is some fun to be had in this movie, it's not something that you'll remember a week after you've seen it. It's a shame considering that Stanley Tong and Jackie Chan movies used to be must-watch events. Another movie with potential. It had a mysterious trailer that implied it was some type of crime thriller, but in the end, we got a movie that was a drama about transient workers, and with a heavy, unwanted social message to boot. The disappointing part of this movie is that it promised equal screen time for the 3 leads, played by Elaine Wong, Sandra Ma, and Johnny Huang. But instead, the movie focused far too much on Elaine Wong's dancer character, leaving the more interesting characters played by Sandra Ma and Johnny Huang to fight over the scraps of screen time left. Which is a shame, as the setting of the mid-90s in a booming China, coupled with the way all 3 characters are intertwined, should have been a recipe for an interesting film. But no, we just got another average Chinese drama that was more focused on pushing a government message and less on entertaining the audience. Well, that's my list of 15 disappointing Asian movies from 2020. What did you think? What were some of the movies you were looking forward to but ended up not enjoying? Or are there movies on my list that you thought were great? Leave me a comment below, and thanks for watching. If this was interesting, please press the like button and consider subscribing to keep up to date with the latest Asian movie reviews and Chinese movie trailers translated into English.